The Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President Emeritus of the Historical Society of Berks County. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to our April 2012 BCTV program. Seated beside me is Joshua Blay, Curator and Associate Director of the Historical Society of Berks County. And beside Joshua is Sime Bertlett, Executive Director of our Historical Society. And to Sime's side is Kimberly Richards Brown, Society Archivist and Library Director. And beside Kimberly is Donna Reed, newly appointed editor of the Historical Review of Berks County. Welcome all.
Our museum, Henry Johnson Library, and museum store open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. However, this Friday, April 6th, will be closing at 2 o'clock and will be closed Saturday, April 7th for Easter. Our museum store is stocked with a number of books on Berks County history, toys, books for kids, and a wide variety of gifts produced by local craftsmen. Just in time for baseball season, our April museum store specials are 10% off our Philadelphia Phillies book, and also our own Charlie Adams book, Baseball and Writing. They're here on the counter if we can zoom out to them or not. Members receive an additional 10% off on a daily basis except for consignment items and passing scene volumes.
We remind viewers that for $55 a year, you can be one of us, a member of the Historical Society of Berks County. Membership in the Society includes our prize-winning quarterly magazine, The Historical Review of Berks County. Membership includes unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, people all living in the same house, are but $65 a year.
And while we're on the subject of memberships, George, remind the viewers at home that Berks Community TV, BCTV, is a survivor and a tough venue and a unique entity in that it's interactive. You are encouraged to call in with your questions and comments to 610-378-0426.
Why not salute BCTV for all the great shows it provides to Reading and Berks, and send a check for $30 a year for a year's membership. Mail your check to BCTV, 645 Penn Street, Reading, Pennsylvania 19601. Remember, time passes, but operating expenses never go away. Let's begin today's program with some views that continue the rare collection of Reading area pictures introduced 2 months ago. We've received very fine comments from people concerning this particular collection. Let's start.
Here we go.
There we are. Let's start it off. What we're seeing there is we ended last month's program with another view of Kissinger's Covered Bridge. Kissinger's Covered Bridge used to connect Kissinger Street with Kissinger's Bridge, and then would cross over into Bern Township at the old Showboat, and then up the hill out heading in the way of Burnville. Kissinger Street later became Schuylkill Avenue, and the new Schuylkill Avenue bridge, the bridge that's there today, is the third one close to that site. This was the original span crossing the Schuylkill in that proximity, and then they built an iron truss bridge, and then the cement bridge that we have today. This bridge, by the way, collapsed into the Schuylkill, and maybe 20 years ago during the winter, you could still see when you crossed the location of the old bridge and you would climb the hill towards the House of Good Shepherd, you would see the old road in the wintertime when all the leaves were down, and with a light sprinkling of snow, you could see that it went up the hill, made a little bit of a left turn towards the old Showboat, which, by the way, was early on called the Somerset House because it was located on Somerset Street. If you check your maps, you'll discover that Somerset Street today would be Blair, heading towards Bushong's old covered bridge that used to be at the end of Blair. So they changed actually the name of that street.
George, how they would do that a lot? There are a lot of renames in Reading. Why?
Well, you know what? For one thing, when it was no longer Byrne Township, it became part of Reading.
Okay.
There were some changes made in there.
Okay.
And some of the renamings was because of that.
Okay.
The picture that you're seeing on the screen right now, that's a very rare one. That's a real dandy. You don't too often see elephants walking up Penn Street. But what you're seeing there are the elephants prior to 1900.
Depends how drunk you are.
Well, that's true. You would be looking from Pomeroy's, but at that time, Pomeroy's had not yet been built. They owned the corner, but the old building was still there. You're looking down to Mishler's Grand Central Hotel, which was where the peanut bar started. That was torn down around 1930, and they put up the Acme. Some of you people who are old enough remember the Acme above 4th and Penn. That occupied the Acme site. And those two buildings on the corner, the one on the far left, became wholesale foods, and next to it was for a short time a state liquor store, and also for quite a while a furniture store. And by the time this picture was taken, it was used as a sporting goods store. Notice the porticos going right down Penn Street. We're looking to the north side of Penn between 5th and 4th. There's one building there that has not changed, and that's the Marvel Ranch building on the far left. I remember the day Marvel Ranch opened, I was there for $1.09. You got a little steak, French fries, a bun, and coleslaw. $1.09. That was a while back. Anyhow, that's the circus coming to town, and we're looking at Penn Street prior to the turn of the last century. Close-up view, isn't that a dandy? Close-up view, and again, I call your attention to the porticos. There was a time that you could go from 6th to 4th, and with the exception of 3 spots, you could walk there on a rainy or a snowy day, and you had some protection against the weather. As I mentioned once before, I believe that one of the values of the portico was that in case of fire, you could go out to the portico, to the edge of the portico, and drop down to the sidewalk if you had good ankles. Otherwise, you had a problem.
Well, so George, they would have walked those elephants. Was the fair when they had during that period? Was that the one out around Easter's Lane?
That was later.
So where would this fair have been, do you think?
That circus.
That's
11th Street. The baseball grounds.
Yeah.
For the post offices today, right?
Right.
No, you're not too far. 11th and Pike.
Yeah.
11th and Pike.
11th and Pike. Yeah, that was a baseball field and also a circus grounds. That's when when she came to town, along with Buffalo Bill, that's where they appeared about 2 or 3 times.
It's a pretty good haul for those elephants.
Oh, yeah.
What year was that, George? That's great.
What year was that? I'm going to guess about 1888.
That's wonderful.
No kidding.
Why do I have to? Anyhow. Oh, okay, I didn't recognize this at first. This is, again, look at that portico.
Yeah.
This, again, is Penn Street in the 600 block on the north side. That was a major furniture emporium at one time, and those buildings were torn down. They actually made the furniture in the back of those buildings. They sold it out the front, and those were torn down and to make way for some of the more modern stores that we remember. We remember Reed's department store at the corner of 7th and all those other stores that were in that same lineup heading from 7th, between 7th and 8th.
Look at everybody on the roof.
Yeah, look at the crowds.
I wonder what that was.
What was the crowd for?
Well,
Is it still the circus?
I don't see the animals there. I'm not really. Oh, we have a home viewer. Yes, home viewer, you're on. Hello, home viewer.
Yeah, I'm calling to make conversation on your conversation here, George. It was a great experience talking to you in the historical in the Jensen Library up at the Historical Society about a month and a half ago. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees for the library, and we talked about history, and you gave me...
oh, yes, I thank you much.
Yes, it was a great experience, you talking about the Kissinger farm out there. The barn was burned down. We talked about there's still an existing barn still in that parcel down on River Road, I guess, or an extension of Spring Street.
Yes.
It was great conversation I had, and you know, when I look at my history in this county, Ernest Turbine Schlegel, there's many ties to the historical aspect of this county.
Two good names, Turbine and Schlegel.
Yes. So I applaud your brain trust on this county, and I carry it forward until your end, and educate us all. We need it. Everybody should learn the historical aspect of this county.
Well, I appreciate our get-together.
Thank you, sir.
I thank you. Okay, maybe have it next slide, please. Oh, well, that's interesting. Pomeroys would have occupied that site. Let me see, in the 1880s, they built the portion on the left-hand side. I don't know whether you can see it, but Pomeroy, DP&S, Pomeroy's Dives and Stewart. And then look at that old building next door, where for a while they made harnesses. And then you had a bank building, and then you had the Heisman building on the corner, which was made from stone that was hauled from Heiner's Whistle on Neversink Mountain. That building, that corner, remained in the Heisman family for many, many years. As a matter of fact, in 1900, they signed a 99-year lease, and people always wondered about when 1999 came, were they going to make people, the Pomeroy's folks, take the store away? Well, it didn't last that long, so that didn't become a problem. I remember Angela Heisman talking, who was of that family, talking about when they signed that deal in 1900, the amount that they received yearly for that store property was very handsome, and they were delighted. She wasn't too delighted near the end because the amount never went up, so what they paid them in 1900, they were still paying them in the 1960s. But anyhow, in 1900, they tore down the old stone building on the corner, what they called the Heisman building, and then in the 1922-23, they took down those other buildings in the middle, and they joined the three together. So that the Pomeroys, as we remember it, was in point of fact many buildings. But those who remember going into Pomeroys, when you would walk from one part of the building to the next, you would go down a little bit, and you go up a little bit. They were not exactly all on the same plane. But that was the Pomeroys corner. Oops. Aha.
Don't turn your TV upside down. Railroad yards.
I think, why don't we switch to somebody else for just a minute?
Correct. I guess I'm up. Okay. Well, we do have an exciting new development at the Historical Society. As George mentioned, one of the benefits of being a member of the Historical Society of Berks County is our quarterly journal, the Historical Review of Berks County. It's been in continuous publication since 1935, 77 years. And I'm very proud, and as I know all the Board of Directors, the Board of Trustees are, to welcome our newest editor to the Historical Review, and that's Donna Reed. It's great to have you with us, Donna. You've made some incredible changes. This is the most recent issue, Donna's first issue, and there have been some changes that I think we'd like Donna to talk about and chat with her about those. Go ahead.
Thank you, Simon. First of all, thank you all for the opportunity to do this. The Historical Society, of course, is one of our treasures here in Berks County, and we're so lucky to have it. And one of the things we wanted to do as we move forward with the review, and we treasure everyone who went before, many of the people, especially my predecessor, Michelle Lynch, really were historians. I come more from the journalistic standpoint. But what we wanted to do with this, and we all agreed upon, was to make it a little bit more broad-based. Not to lose the scholarly nature of it, but to go forward and try to have a more broad-based appeal, and also use it to some degree as a development tool and a marketing tool for the society, because a lot of people tend to forget what a wonderful gift shop we have, what a wonderful venues we have with the Handel House and with the society, that people can actually rent and use them, and we try to incorporate some of those things as well as scholarly aspects of history in Berks County. And a few of the changes we made, and I can't say enough about Kim. Kim has been wonderful, as Josh, everyone has, as we've worked on this. And one of the things I will give Kim a lot of credit for is we've started what we call a timeline, and it's called Once Upon a Time in Berks County. And Kim was great enough to show me the Hummel chronology by a past editor of the Historical Review from the 1960s, Dr. William Hummel. And I believe he was editor 69 through 73 of the Historical Review. So every historical review that you get, it is quarterly, you'll see a timeline. This one starts in 1682 and goes up to 2002. We've also looked to the future, and we have what we call our future historians. We will have students from throughout Berks County, and George, to your credit as a teacher, this sort of follows through with the concept of teaching that you did so well for so many years. The students will look at one of the pictures in one of George's and Gloria's passing scenes and go to the place now. What is it now, and what does it mean to them? And our first future historian is Janelle Arter. She's 11 years old and a 6th grader at Wilson West. And met her at the Historical Society when she and her mother were there to purchase George's newest book, number 19, for her dad for Christmas. Worked into a conversation as we waited for you to sign the books, and she was just very inspired by what you do, George. And I think it's great when an 11-year-old has a feel for history. So we want to make sure the kids are a part of this, and we really feel happy about the way this has come together. Our stories tend to be a little bit shorter. Every issue will be themed, so the next issue we're very excited about will be themed with both baseball, honoring when the major leagues came to Berks County. Brian Engelhardt is doing some fabulous things. Charlie Adams is also writing for it. So we will have a major stories and sidebars and charts about baseball in Berks County. When the big leagues came here, you'll be surprised at some of the people who actually played here. We hope we've started what we call a postscript, which is a back essay. Peter Barbie, a longtime Berks County family. George, how many different industries were the Barbies in over the years? And the current one, Peter Barbie, is now the CEO of Reading Eagle Company, and he talked about Reading Eagle being, of course, acquired when it was Der Adler, the German language newspaper, by Jesse Hawley's great-great-grandfather. And you sort of see the circle of the 5 generations and handling the Eagle over the years. So this is a really fascinating story to read as well. But we hope with the baseball issue, we hope to get either Mike Schmidt or Ryan Howard to write the postscript. And we're in touch, and we're trying to work on those things. This issue of the Historical Review, this current one, you'll see Frank Sinatra in there. A little interesting story about him being a disc jockey for WEU one day in 1950, September of 1950, and a very young Taylor Swift, who was singing at the Community Cafe. I think we all remember those from WEU.
We have a picture of Taylor Swift from the review.
Oh, that's
if you want
great.
to pull
That
it
would
up
be
on the
terrific.
laptop, you could have a look at it.
That would be great. Taylor was much younger then, but she is certainly.
She's not very old now, though.
No, she's not. and that young lady is such a credit to Berks County. I had the pleasure of knowing her dad. He was one of, when I was at the Eagle, he wrote a stock trends column for us back in the 80s, before she was probably even born, I hate to admit, but she's a real treasure, and we're really lucky that she calls Berks County home. She remembers this area, she's charitable to this area, and just a real credit. So anyhow, by and large, what we're trying to do is draw more people in, make this a popular and a friendly historical review, but never ever forgetting the importance of the scholarly background of it. And another part of the review, again themed, and there will be 2 themes. One is baseball, and another is a really critical theme and a very important theme It's something that Simon's come up with, and we're really excited about going forward. And Simon, perhaps you would like to talk about that.
I think you're speaking about Burke's Roots.
Yes.
Well, I mentioned it a little bit on the show last month, and just talking about when we look at Berks County and we look at the history of Berks County and its legacy, it has always been, and I think even more so than other counties, it's always been the story of migration and immigration and acculturation. And we're putting this Berks Roots together as a way of highlighting the other ethnic groups that have made this country the place we are today. When you look at the Germanic settlers who came from the west bank of the Rhine in the 18th and 19th century, more in the 18th century, then you look at the Italian Americans, the Polish Americans, the Czech Americans, the Irish Americans, the Greek Americans, you name it. That has been Berks County's story. And every year we wish to showcase one of those ethnic groups and, you know, to show how they have came to Reading to make a better place for their family and their community. And this year, in 2012, we're focusing on the Latino population, our newest generation. And we are going to be hosting that at the Historical Society, beginning with an exhibit on Latino culture here in Reading, and then also a day on September 15th called Berks Roots, where we will have a day of the culture itself, the food, the music, the dance. And so we're really excited about that. And that's going to be a prominent feature in the summer issue of the Historical Review. So we're very excited about that. And it's going to be part of the review. One of the other things, and Donna, you know, talked about Berks Roots, or she talked about the timeline. One of the other things I think was really cute, there is a section in here called In Other Words. And it talks, this one is our Germanic ancestry. Words in Pennsylvania Dutch that or sayings in Pennsylvania Dutch that really speak to our culture. One of the things that, it is great to go through and look at this, but I made one suggestion that we're going to try and implement. That we want to put a phonetic spelling in here, just because even, you know, like I said, I was born and raised, you know, Berks County, but I was, you know, there were a couple of those that I said I wish my grandpop and grandmom were still around so they could give me the correct pronunciation. But we want to do that, put the phonetic pronunciation in, and working with our IT volunteer, Doug Reinert, we also want to put a voice recording of the sayings on the website, so that people can go and actually hear what the correct pronunciation is.
People will know some of those. For many of us, and George and I know if you were little, when all of us maybe when we were little, being called the Nix Nooks when you did something wrong. I can't. Well, I don't want to know how many times I was called the Nix Nooks. But anyhow, you'll see the meaning of that in there. But I agree. The phonetic spelling, George, would be, or sign would be very important.
Yeah, it's. I just think that, you know, and those are ideas that we're having. You know, it's a continually evolving publication, and there are ideas. And if you have ideas, we'd welcome them as well. Kim had a wonderful idea, as Donna mentioned. We've shortened.
I depend on her. She's such a treasure. Oh my God.
Donna has shortened the articles that we have in the review, okay? But we also, like I said, in keeping with the scholarly aspect of it, we also want to make those the full text version of those articles available. Kim came to me and we were talking, and she said, Simon, as you know, she said that when the Historical Society was first founded, it was founded for the research, writing, and presentation of the historical reminiscences of Berks County. And they were called transactions at that time.
More eloquently put than I said it.
I remember those things. But anyway, we want to take, she said, those are the transactions. And we have a total of what?
There's three.
Three transactions.
They commissioned a fourth, but it never got published.
Okay.
Because that's leading into the 1935 edition of the Historical Review.
Well, we want to resurrect those, and we want to call them transactions. Only this time, we're going to do them as they would probably have done it, or they do them in the 21st century. And that's to make them available on the HSBC website, which is the best website of any historical society in the United States. Make those available as the e-transactions were for people, members, that they can get on and be able to see the full text versions, be able to research through that. So we're really excited about that. There's some logistical things we have to work out with our IT volunteer in that, you know, like I said, it's a member benefit, and we want to have this as a benefit for the members and for members to access. We're working on password protection and things like that. But that's some of the other things that we're doing. But we really want to thank Donna for the great work that you've done, and we thank Michelle for her dedicated years of service.
And she's still contributing. We're very happy that Michelle's
still contributing. So anyway, that's about it. I guess we have to take a break right now, so why don't we do the housekeeping, and we'll be back.
Berks County on bctv.org. Be informed. Be involved. Be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. For other information on local heritage societies and local history, go to bctv.org. The Historical Society of Berks County on bctv.org is underwritten by the Highlands. To find out how you and your business can support a program on BCTV, go to bctv.org.
Slides? Okay. Okay, folks, let's return to our slides. We have some more to show you.
It's still upside down.
Oh, those darn trains.
That's magnet traction.
That's magnet traction, yeah, that's right. But those were Lionels. Well, I think some of us recognize this. Some people call this the old jail. That was never the old jail. That was the Berks County Prison. We had an old jail, but that was in the basement of the old City Hall beside the Presbyterian Church, catty corner from the library. But that's the Berks County Prison. It was actually in operation for many, many years, from about 1840. And in 1937, they took away the last stones that was torn down by the city workers, stone by stone. They salvaged, by the way, most of that stone. And people who know where Bear Park is, the Bear Park Field House, was made of prison stone.
Really?
I'm told that I watched them build it, but I have no recollection whatever because I was less than a year old. But I used to get walked across the street. I lived directly across the street from the Bear Park Field House. That field house was of prison stone. They wanted to try to save that thing. By the way, the reason that they got rid of it was that it became structurally unsound, particularly in the front section. And it never had adequate means for ventilation, and it was a real beast to try to heat. So that when they built the new prison in Berks out there in the Essex tract about 1932. They closed this, and it sort of sat idle. There were thoughts about saving the very front part of that as a memorial to the veterans of wars. And it was during the Depression, and the money just wasn't there to do anything about that, so eventually it was all torn down. Quite a number of years ago, they were going to lay some, maybe you might know something about this, Donna, where that parking lot is where the police park their cars, and they dug down and they found that the solitary confinement hallway is still down there underground.
Really?
Where they dug down, they actually found some of the cells, the entrances to the cells. They just simply took away the top and buried everything. So if you were to dig down there, you would find cells with hardware and everything else.
Really? Where the parking lot is?
Where the parking lot is. Where they're parking illegally, because there was a big lawsuit that went to the state Supreme Court about denying people every atom of ground up in that park. But now, whenever I see a sign, no parking, I think to myself, that Supreme Court decision about City Park. But anyhow, that's why the museum was taken out of the park. That's why they covered the reservoirs. People thought that they covered the reservoirs in order to keep the water pure. No, they covered the reservoirs so people could play on top of the land and have that land for the public.
Supreme Court, state or?
State.
State, okay.
Yeah, it went to the state Supreme Court.
How long ago was that, George?
Oh, that would have been long ago, as what, the 18... it was when... George F. Baer was involved with the park system. It would have been in the 80s or the 90s. It's been a while.
Maybe we should have a disclaimer that we don't recommend that you go digging around for the solitary confinement cells. And should you, you do at your own peril.
Yes, I know.
And risk of prosecution.
Yes. Anyhow, so much for the old prison up in City Park. Maybe we had those pictures back again.
That's wild. That's wild.
Okay, there are the open reservoirs. I remember what a thrill I had years back when I did a story. I did a 3 or 4 part story for the Reading Eagle on City Park. And with the old water commissioner at that time, they opened up one of those, like a manhole lid with a hinge on it, and there's an iron ladder, and did I hang on for dear life, and I discovered how deep those reservoirs really are. Very deep, like about 18 feet.
Did you go down there, George?
I went down the ladder very gingerly with my camera around my neck, and I thought, wow, won't this be a neat picture for the paper? It was so vast and so dark that I had a super blitz. I had a super blitz flash unit. You saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. At the very top, you saw like little bits of like stalactites, tiny little things. But as far as the vastness, you saw absolutely nothing. It's that big. Wow. See, there were actually, I'm trying to remember, whether 3 reservoirs all joined together, and then they were made into 2. There were 3 reservoirs up there at one time, but the reason they covered them was so that they could play games and do whatever they want to on top of that land, because no one was supposed to be denied access to that land. As a matter of fact, the old Berks County Fair was taken out of there in 1887 because of that business, that they weren't supposed to be in there. The water department wasn't supposed to be in there, and that was a fuss for a while. But anyhow, so much for that part of history. St. Joe's Hospital. On the Augustus Vollmer, V-O-L-L-M-E-R property, he was a vintner. There used to be a nice big cave in there, which the nuns years back worked to make a grotto. And that grotto would have been where they later on played tennis. Remember the tennis courts behind St. Joe's, between the old part of the hospital and 13th Street. There was a grotto there. The Reading Eagle had drawings years ago of the nuns sitting down there, because the temperature was always very, very pleasant in the summertime. Something happened to that grotto, and it was closed off. And I presume that I often wondered whether they ever dug anything up when they built that garage back there, whether they ever uncovered anything.
Right, and now it's a field again.
Now it's a field again. But there was a grotto down there of considerable size, and that was, in point of fact, his wine cellar.
Wow.
Yes, converted from wine cellar to...
Maybe that's why the nuns
when was
liked
it built
so
originally?
The hospital dated from, what, 1880, about 1884. It was went back to the 80s.
Did I miss something? It was built as the hospital.
That was. Originally, they had Augustus Vollmer's home. It was a 2.5-story brick property. On that, it was... Let me see. It was on where the nurses' building was later, on the upper side of Birch Street. And but
did they demo it and build that?
Yeah, they had 12 They had 12 beds, 6 in the bottom for the ladies and 6 on the top for the men. The guys had to climb the steps. Then they broke ground for the new hospital, and then eventually the old house was taken away.
Okay. All right.
But actually,
George, where was the vineyard then?
The vineyard was all over that hillside. As a matter of fact, where the Citadel is today, that was all covered with fruit trees at one time. There are pictures that show those fruit trees that were there where the Citadel is.
Really?
Yep.
That's stunning.
That was a very handsome building. The ironwork on there, thanks to William Rempus, who was Catholic, that ironwork was fabulous on there. Okay, we're on the Union Canal. We'll pick up with this later, and we'll switch over to either Joshua or Kimberly.
Want to go first, Kim?
Sure. Yes. So the library just concluded its archival workshop series, and we'd like to thank everybody who attended. In February, we had about 59 people show up for the photographic workshop, and last week, no, 2 weeks ago, the 24th, we had 55 people show up for the Why Archives Matter and How to Research at the Henry Johnson Library.
That was so good that I volunteered you for other historical societies around the state to present that program.
Seriously?
Yes, I have. I told them, I know an archivist who would be very good at doing that.
Okay. It'll be, because I did the presentation again on the 28th for the Heritage Council.
They love it.
Okay. So due to this success, we are going to start planning next year's archival workshop series. We'll this time schedule snow dates in case there's snow, so we don't have to double them up. But look for those around January, February, March, only because it's kind of our slow season and it's easier to do that. On April 18th, we are offering an archival workshop processing class through the Berks Heritage Council. There's still 15 seats available. The cost is $15, and at this point, because the RSVP deadline was today, we're thinking of opening it up to anybody who's responsible for their church archives. We are really restricting this not to the general public, but to people who work for other historical organizations or church archives, just to try to give them some assistance in processing their collections. A lot of people just, they don't really know how to go about a heap of paper, what to do with it. So if you're interested, it's going to be April 18th. It's from 5 to 7 at the Henry Johnson Library. We're requesting one person per organization, and you do need to call ahead at 610-375-4375, or you can email me at krbrown@berkshistory.org. And I ask that you do it by next Friday, which is Friday the 13th, because we have to have handouts printed, and I have to finish developing the workshop. But we'll basically show you how we go about doing our job in the hopes that it can help you tackle your archives for whatever organization you work for. We are also trying to get some volunteer help for Saturdays. Nobody likes to work Saturdays. Hey, we're open on Saturdays. So if you're interested in helping researchers do research, please contact us, especially if you're interested in helping us on Saturdays. We have one volunteer on Saturdays. That's it. I have to say that because of the weather, we have hit triple digits in attendance for the past 2 months. Wow. And that is not... it's uncommon for that because of the time of year, so we're only expecting to pick up from this point forward. We almost had 200 people for the month of February.
And you will train these people.
Oh, yeah. You're not
going to throw them to the wolves.
Well, that's the best way to do it.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Think or swim.
That's right. No, you will train so that you know where things are, how to locate material. It helps if you have an interest in history, especially Berks County history, and have done some of your own research, because if you don't know how to do research, you aren't going to be able to help researchers do their research. It's kind of like a catch-22.
I think the history, if they're watching this program, they pretty much got that interest covered.
Hopefully.
I don't think so.
So I think, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any more updates.
Neat stuff.
I do have some neat stuff, and it's neat, but I didn't bring it for the reason kind of why it's neat.
Okay.
I have with me the it's Lieutenant Colonel John E. Arthur collection. And real quick, he was commissioned a captain in Company B of the 93rd Regiment on October 12th, 1861. Around the Battle of Seven Pines, shortly after that, which is in June of '62. So in July of '62, he becomes a lieutenant colonel and is discharged in November of 1862. And believe it or not, he was called up as part of the 42nd Pennsylvania Militia, the group that got called up right around the time of Gettysburg.
Wow.
And he served 90 days for that. And then Governor Curtin kind of discharged him, because he technically was discharged from the Army on for medical reasons. We have in his collection, there's it's the company roll of recruit. We have a muster roll, which I'll show, and one of the only letters that we have in the collection that he wrote to his wife after the Battle of Seven Pines. So in the letter we know that he gets named acting captain. And it's interesting because of the fact that, you know, Civil War starts, our exhibit starts in June. But I mostly brought it to show you the preservation, the little bit of preservation that we're able to do. And it's going to be kind of hard to see because it's in Mylar, but
It came out
Looks
nice.
pretty good.
this document was in count the pieces. I mean, when it's in columns and straight across. This was in what seems like a gazillion little pieces. And part of our job at the library is to kind of put it back together so that it's readable. And just because you think it's on one side, you also have to match up the back. So it's actually, it took about an hour or more to get the whole thing lined up. Mylar is it's a acid-free plastic, and what's used to hold the document in place is static and double-sided sticky tape around the edge so that it doesn't go anywhere. Unfortunately, even when it's in the Mylar, it still tends to shift around. I had to put one of the pieces back in. And you kind of have to have the patience of a saint for this, because when you get little shards, like in the muster roll, they like to jump up and turn around, so you kind of sit there and start swearing at yourself, because every time you get it just about ready to flip down, the shards jump up and they move around. But this is the muster roll. We try very hard to line everything up. But this is a good example of, this actually did come to us like this. You know, this didn't happen while it was at the library. You can see that just through deterioration and age, there's, you know, chunks missing. Paper does become brittle with age, especially if you don't put it in a room where there's, you know, constant humidity, constant temperature control. There are things that we have, unfortunately, in our collection that are in worse shape. I brought this one. This one was pretty much, Donna's got it, kind of whole, but this is the company list. So this is the company B that he was put in charge of, and these are all the recruits. And you can tell which ones could sign their name and which ones couldn't, because
Sign an X?
yeah, they'll have an X by it, or if they could sign their name, they actually signed their name.
The thing that's neat about that, that's a Zouave. You know, and I wish we had a picture of the Zouave in their uniform, because it was a
They had
the niftiest uniforms of anybody in the
We've
world.
got one in the collection, too.
And is that going to be
Really?
in part of the exhibit?
I'm not sure if it's going to be in first part, but it definitely will be in one of the stages of the Civil War exhibit.
And what
One
does
of
Zouave mean? What differentiates it?
It's a style of uniform.
More of a, you know, it was a French, almost North African.
Very baggy.
Yeah, very baggy pantaloons.
Didn't they have the funny hat?
Yeah, they had
like
a,
fez?
not a, yeah, fez.
Fez hat.
It's like a band hat,
Yeah.
almost.
But you know what? What's really important about this is that this is the kind of, this is the work that Kim and her staff and her volunteers do. I mean, this is preserving Berks County's legacy. If it weren't for them, this would be lost forever. And Josh and Kim Longlot and his volunteers do the same work at the museum, only with the three-dimensional artifacts. And this is why the Historical Society of Berks County is important, because if you didn't have these folks, they'd be gone. And like I said, a lot of communities have faced that. So, you know, I commend both these folks for the work that they do to help preserve this Berks County's history, like George does with the passing scene and the photograph collection. This is important.
I know the one thing that you've been asking me for 3 years to bring on, and I still won't do it, is we do have a humidification chamber. I know.
You can.
It wasn't like, it was like a month after I started. I walked into Simon's office. I'm like, you know, we really need a humidification chamber. And he's like, how much is that going to cost? I'm like, how much you got for 2 garbage cans and a lid? And it works. Like, we didn't humidify this because there's, at this point, really, it's not going to do the paper any good, but we do humidify documents that we can't unroll because actually, you know, paper tears along folds just like fabric, and if you have something rolled and it's a tight roll and you go to unroll it, you're going to start cracking the document, so stop. We do, for at-home remedies for that, we just say steam up your shower and put it in the bathroom for a little bit, and it should, after a while, relax. But this is also, you know, my little archival tip for today before I finish up is please no tape. You can actually see where the family taped the document together, where part of my time was spent removing the tape. Because at this point, you know, you can't, if it comes off, it comes off, but you really have to try to remove it as best you can. Tape actually does more damage in the long run, and you can actually still see pieces that if I had tried to take off anymore, it would have destroyed the document. So please, no tape. No tape, no staples, no paper clips. I've said that before. I remember the little Dixie cup of rusted staples that I brought in and paper clips. No, no, no. But so I just, you know, not a lot of people really quite understand what it is we do at the library, so I kind of wanted to bring this in to show you that we're not just, you know, handing out books to people and answering research requests. We are trying to actively preserve as best we can the documents that are coming in so that in 150 years you can still read this document, probably, hopefully, in this shape.
You're right.
Great. You know, and so we have fun though in the process too. So.
Good.
That's all I got.
Okay, I got a couple programs to tell you about coming up before we show you some pictures on the laptop.
Sure you Rainbow Theater.
Yep.
I
I will get it in there, Vicki. Vicki's home enjoying a well-deserved break with her kids for spring break, but I promise you, Vicki, I will get it in. Coming up for our April 2nd Saturday program on the 14th of April, Saturday, we have one of the best titled programs I have ever heard in my life. Donna mentioned Brian Engelhardt, a frequent contributor to the Reading Eagle and a baseball historian. He's joining us for a program, presenting the program called Manager Fred Merkel and the 1927 Reading Keys, 31-game losing streak. He could not have done it without their help. I love that title. He's going to be covering the brief history of the Keys, Reading's only AAA minor league baseball team, and why Reading earned its reputation as baseball town. He's written a number of articles on baseball and other subjects, and has written baseball articles for the Society for American Baseball Research, say that 10 times fast, and also for the Reading Phillies website. Refreshments are at 9:30 a.m., program at 10. $5 for adults, $4 senior citizens, $3 for children under 17, and students with a valid school ID are half price. Also, coming up at the end of April, we won't get a chance to talk about it again before our May TV program, we're very pleased to be welcoming back Rainbow Theater. They're children actors. 9th year. 9th year. Wow. This year they're presenting a program based on Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. It's called Alice's Wonderland Tea Party. They're going to be having 4 different shows the 27th of April, 2 on Saturday, the 28th of April, and also one on the 29th. $12 for adults, $10 for children. Reservations are required, so please give us a call on our main number, 610-375-4375, to make reservations. And we do ask that children are accompanied by an adult. Also, Vicki would be very happy, very pleased for me to mention and share with you some photographs on my laptop here. This year we've again put up an egg tree.
You guys walking it down the street.
That's me. Vicki, I enjoy this. Vicki doesn't think I enjoy it as much as I do, but I do enjoy this. And this year we've been very happy to reintroduce the egg tree back to our main building. So this is yours truly walking up 2nd Street. It's a very delicate, very huge saffron tree.
Sassafras.
Sassafras, thank you. It's not a spice tree.
Sassafras.
Right in white cotton batting. It's very fragile, so there was no way we're going to be able to put it into our vehicles. So on a nice warm day last week, yours truly walked it up 2nd Street and brought it into the auditorium.
What a beautiful auditorium.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Vicki Hefter on the right, our education curator, gathered the eggs from the Hendel House, and our museum collection volunteer, Tuesday afternoon volunteer, Javier Solis, and I and Kim helped decorate the tree. There's Javier putting up some eggs. A lot of different variety of eggs.
We have, what, 3,500 Easter eggs?
Something like that.
That are native to Berks County. They go back, what, 100 years, 150 years?
I'm not sure the age of them, but some definitely go back to the turn of the century, from 1800s to the early 1900s.
Are we still looking for egg cartons?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yep. So these, I grabbed some action shots. Vicki had me with my vertical assistance. I was putting up some eggs at the top of the tree, and I grabbed some action shots, if you will.
Good picture of Vicki.
A good Vicki supervisor photograph. Hopefully she won't call me to task on that picture. John, there's a number of eggs here from Dreyersville, but this gives you some appreciation for the just absolute ornamentation on the eggs.
And this is really a slice of Berks County culture.
I wish I had 1% of their artistic talent. I really do. And that'll be up. Again, we're closing this Friday at 2 o'clock, but that'll be up for the week after Easter, so please come on and see it. And we also have some egg-related material, Raggedy Ann, or Eggedy Ann. This is one of my favorites. Actually, it's an egg. It's 2 eggs together, and somebody had a little fun with the piece. I apologize for the Scotch tape, but he wasn't doing so well.
Kind of looks like you, Josh. Just a little.
Okay. He's sort of falling apart. He's meaning to fall apart. You can see how he's grimacing, how he broke apart there. Just some really nice collection of eggs.
Okay.
And I have a few more things, but Simon, if you wanted to talk about Susan.
Before we get, there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. On Friday evening, June 1st, 2012, Historical Society is hosting its annual fundraiser at Stokesay Castle. Back in 2007, we celebrated Sousa's 75th anniversary. For those of you who might not be aware, John Philip Sousa, America's March King, had a very long and close relationship to Reading and Berks County, most notably through the Ringgold Band and Monroe Alt House. And we celebrate that. Ringgold Band's one of the oldest organizations in existence. They have been 160 years old in Berks County, and Sousa really liked the band. Many of the band members of the Ringgold Band played for the Sousa Band on his world tours and on the tours around the country. Anyway, we're going to be celebrating Sousa's Golden Jubilee. Golden Jubilee was a march that he wrote to commemorate his 50 years as a conductor. He was the first Marine Band conductor, and we're going to honor that with a dinner at Stokesay beginning at 6 o'clock with a cocktail reception which will last approximately an hour and 15 minutes. Go in for dinner. Dinner will be a plated sit-down dinner of Stokesay's signature filet mignon and sautéed red snapper. And then after dinner there will be a performance by the Ringgold Band performing the music that John Philip Sousa wrote for the 1928 Golden Jubilee Tour. It's going to be a great evening. We'd love to have you. Come give the Historical Society a call at 610-375-4375 to get details on tickets. Great evening. And then last, real quick, still in the forming stages, Historical Society is going to reintroduce its annual summer picnic. It's going to be at the Liederkranz, and it's going to take place on Saturday, June 23rd, 5 p.m. till whenever, and be a great time featuring German buffet. I believe ticket prices is going to be $35, so call for more details on that as we get closer. It'd be a really good time and a great way to spend a summer evening.
It's a nice grove.
Yeah, really is a nice grove. And Liederkranz is an old organization here in Reading and Berks. So anyway, thank you. George.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can get a couple of slides in yet, if we may have the slides again. That doesn't show a great deal. That is the Union Canal. But something very interesting showed up on eBay recently. It was fascinating in point of fact. Apparently, along the Union Canal, there where the Bissinger tragedy took place, Mrs. Bissinger did herself in along with her children. They lie buried in a rather nice monument marks the site in Charles Evans Cemetery. What I didn't know was that there was a stereopticon view made years back that showed a monument, like a marble monument at the site. I never knew about that.
Wow.
And it popped up on eBay, and I bid very generously and managed to get it. It should be coming this week yet, and I'll share it when it does come, that they actually put a monument along the Union Canal that longs, I've never heard of it before, but I saw it in the picture, so there was indeed a monument along the Union Canal. Again, that's on the Union Canal. Now, if this were a larger screen, you got a great deal more out of that. This was in the general vicinity of the Grings Mill area. Actually, it lies somewhat north of that, away from Grings Mill, heading in the general direction of sort of like Red Bridge. Oh, speaking of Red Bridge, that is the old mill that used to be at Red Bridge. There was an old mill there at one time, Wirtz's Red Bridge. The Wirtz family had Wirtz's mill right there near the bridge. That thing survived. I remember talking to the last operators of that who lived in old age in Glenside. I'm just trying to recall their names. It's been years since I spoke with them. They said that they were working the mill, and they took a break for lunch, and they didn't shut the stones off, and they began rubbing each other, causing sparks and heat, and Wirtz's mill burned down. That's what happened to Wirtz's mill right next to the Red Bridge there near the county property.
That's neat.
Yeah. There we are, and we see along the Tulpehocken. Notice the animals there in the Tulpehocken.
I fish right there.
That's the old Waylock.
Oh,
And by the way, when you go across the West Shore bypass from Glenside heading over towards Penn Street, you actually go over the site of where that weigh house was on the Union Canal. There were two weigh houses, one here and one at what they call Union Waterworks, north of Lebanon, near that tunnel. This was at Glenside. You passed the boats beneath. You had a cradle, and the boats would flow across, would go over the cradle. They would draw the water off, and the cradle was attached to a scale, and you paid by the weight that you were carrying on that boat. That's how you paid for
your toll.
Yes, for your passage. We just got a little note. Tell your friends about our program, which is on live the first Wednesday of each month at 7. The program repeats this coming Friday night at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Thanks to today's panel, Joshua Blaze, Simon Bertlet, Kimberly Richards Brown, and Donna Reed. I'm George Miser, your host for a 52-year member of the Historical Society of Berks County. We look forward to having you join us again on the first Wednesday in May 2012. Thanks for watching.
Good night.